No, I don't need to say that. Yeah. Where are you going?
I can slide down.
Sure.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Luana Vandermet. I'm the director of the Mayor's Office of NightLife and Culture. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Quick note, if someone is in need of Spanish interpretation, there's assistance on this side of the room. Her hand is waving. Again, if anybody is in need of Spanish interpretation. We're here today to acknowledge all the voices that are present. I want to thank Mayor Muriel Bowser for her leadership as she has launched this multi-agency NightLife Task Force initiative to address the public safety challenges we are facing. I also want to thank our nightlife operators and our residents of the U Street corridor. We recognize the many challenges you are facing, and we thank you for your timely efforts to work with us as a nightlife task force to ensure that we create a safe environment for our residents, guests, and businesses. We appreciate your willingness to partner with us. The Mayor's Office of NightLife and Culture is here to serve you and continue to be the key point of contact, advocates, and liaisons for nightlife establishments, residents, and DC government. We are here to promote a safe, vibrant nighttime economy and continue to engage and assist you. On June 30th, Mayor Muriel Bowser announced a multi-agency nightlife task force. This task force was created to engage community members and bring together resources in busy nightlife corridors. The task force, which will be piloted throughout the summer months, will implement targeted strategies to increase safety in the identified nightlife corridors. The task force will be out on Friday and Saturday nights through the early morning and on Sunday evenings when there is a Monday holiday. As we know, U Street is back in full effect, DC is open, and we are experiencing a higher volume of activity in our nightlife corridors than in 2019. As I stated earlier, we understand that the increased activities come with challenges, and we are here to work through the challenges together. With that being said, I'll hand it over to the Metropolitan Police Department's Assistant Chief King.
Thank you, and I'm going to hand it over to the Deputy Mayor.
Very good.
Deputy Mayor Gelman.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, son. Thank you for everything that your office does throughout the city, particularly here for the U Street corridor. I just want to get a sense for who we all have here. So who's establishment owner, business owner, all that on U Street area? Okay. Who we got here from the community? Folks that live in the area. Okay, good to go. We got anybody from our council member's office and all that? There we go. Council member Nadeau's office. Good to go. And then we got our DC agencies that are here. Anybody I didn't cover?
Veterans.
Say again?
Veterans.
Veterans? Okay, I'll join you with that.
Yeah.
Good. Very good. Anybody else that we didn't get?
Shaw Main Streets.
Say again, sir?
Shaw Main Streets.
Shaw Main Streets. There we go. We've been out there on Shaw Main Street before. Yes, we have. Okay. Look, about how long now? A month and a half?
June 14th.
There you go. June 14th, we had our first meeting of DC government agencies to sit down and say, our nightlife is hopping again, and it's really hopping. And we need to make sure that we keep that.
When you say nightlife is hopping, what is your definition? Positive way or negative way?
Yes, exactly. It is hopping. So, in both fashions, okay? People are coming out, they're going to the establishments. People are coming out, not going to establishments and being out on the street. People are coming out, putting chairs down on the streets. I mean, when I say it's hopping, there are a lot of people in our more high profile nightlife areas in the city. U Street, Connecticut Avenue, areas like that. And what we wanted to do, and we wanted to ensure, working with the Metropolitan Police Department and everybody else, is that we want a good, safe environment for people to come into our city and spend their hard-earned dollars at our establishments. We want folks to come out. DC is open. I love seeing bars with all sorts of people in them. People having a good time, people dancing, doing their thing, having their nightlife, do the things that they want to do at night safely. Everybody goes home safely. And that was the whole genesis behind us getting together with the district government agencies and saying, who do we need out on the streets to ensure that that safety can happen? Folks can come, enjoy themselves, do what they need to do during their nightlife hours, have a good time, and go home safe. That's it, bottom line. We don't want to stop people from coming in. We don't want to turn people away. But we want them to do it safely. And that's the whole reason why we got together with all these agencies from the district government to say everybody's got a role. It's not just the Metropolitan Police Department out there on the streets to do all of the things that we need to do. We need our parking enforcement out there. We need folks to make sure we're cleaning the streets up when we're done with the night. We need to make sure that, we have the right capacities in our places. We need to make sure that, folks that are on the street are following the laws. And the more district government folks they can see on the street that are helping them have a good time safely, the better off we're all going to be. So that was the whole impetus behind doing our nightlife task force and bringing that together. And as I watched it happen and talked with Commander Kane, we had many meetings on getting who needs to be out there, who don't we have, who do we have, how much more presence do we need to make sure that we're keeping the drag racing down, we're keeping the ATVs and all that sort of stuff out of the area because that could create havoc for people in an unsafe environment. We started to see everybody that we needed to have out there, and we started to see those incidents start to come down. So I have to congratulate not just the Metropolitan Police Department, but all the agencies that have been out there every Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, sometimes Monday nights if we have a longer weekend, to make sure that people can be safe. Because that's really, again, I'm going to just repeat myself again, what it's all about. People being safe, enjoying themselves, enjoying our city, enjoying our establishments, but being safe. So I want to thank everybody here that has participated in that. And this is an opportunity for us to hear back from everybody on how well we're doing and other things maybe we need to do. I'm going to hold off on those questions until after Commander Kane has a chance to come up here and talk to you all more about what we've been doing. So thank you all for being here, for being interested in this and giving the feedback. And that's what this is really about. We want to get feedback on how we're doing and what else we may need to get to out in the street to keep it safe for the residents, people coming to visit, and the owners of the establishments. Commander Kane.
Is it good afternoon yet?
Yeah.
They sort of run together. As the deputy mayor said, I'm Assistant Chief Kane, and I oversee our patrol services North Bureau. I have almost 24 years. This year will be my 24th year with the Metropolitan Police Department. I came down here in 1993 to go to undergrad, right? I went to Marymount University right over in Arlington, Virginia. Guess where we used to come to party? In U Street. So guess where, so it's been a long time since I partied on U Street. Now I work on U Street, but I know what that felt like, right? We had a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking, a lot of partying, right? And some other things. So what happened, and I'm not going to preach to you all because you're there and you see it. You've seen the evolution of what has occurred on U Street, right? We saw it drop down during COVID, and then when DC opened back up, guess what DC did? It opened back up. And U Street and some of our other nightlife corridors, the influx was so great. It's so many different variables that's needed there. We talked a little bit about it. We talked about what the ATVs, that is a pain in people's behinds, right? It's not safe. We talked about, we have vehicles that are just circling the block or in the second lane, the travel lane, they stop, they have their music and they're kind of partying. We had folks that were coming down, pulling out an amplifier, and they're playing their music and they're having their own parties on public space, right? We've seen coolers full of alcohol where folks are vending them from public space, right? We have seen, because you know how I know, right? 'Cause I was involved, right? So we have seen, I saw a stand set up with the edibles. Brownies, cookies, and cakes, and just doing business on public space, right?
And then they come in there fast because it's gone in no time at all.
Oh, I know. I just happened to walk up
Yep.
to it. I don't think they were expecting for me to walk. I mean, they were just surrounding it, right? But nevertheless, the mayor and the chief of police, they saw this because they're out here. Not only did they see it, but they go out and they hear back from the community, right? They hear back from the community. So the idea was, how do we come together, the whole of government, What do we need? Because it's not just what, an MPD issue. Like I, you know, as good as I like to think I am, I don't know how to write DCRA citations, right? I don't know how to, when we go into an establishment and it's overcrowded or there's over serving, I don't really know how to enforce that. I know it's wrong, right? The ATV, well, that's us. We're gonna deal with that. The triple parking, right? I don't have a co-crane to get rid of that. So I need all of the partner agencies to help us and play a role in that. And when we invited them to that June 14th meeting, the deputy mayor hosted it. He told the agency heads, come on in. We'll have a round table. And when I tell you, remember I told y'all 24 years. So I've seen some things. But when I saw my partner agencies come around the table and they were enthusiastic, and what is it you need us to do? I said, well, did y'all actually hear us say we need you to work on weekends from like 9 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning? And guess what they did? They showed up. So June 14th. So I'm like, okay, I'll see y'all on Friday, right? Like that Friday, like the 17th.
Yeah, she was like tomorrow.
The 17th.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow, right? So they came around the table. They came out to help us. Now, what I think is so important in all of this, because again, remember I told you we're seeing so many different things, and I'm gonna come back to crime, because at the end of the day, for MPD, it's crime, right? We don't want to create circumstances or situations that lead to violent crime. And some of the activity that I was talking to you about leads to what? I know y'all watch the news, so y'all been hearing how petty arguments. Somebody might have been drinking. You introduce a gun into that circumstance, and then what do you have? You have a mass shooting. That's right. You have a homicide, right? Some of these cars that are idling and unattended, right? Whether they're going to pick it up, you know, going to pick up food, whatever they're going to do. Have you all watched the news where you see those cars are used in violent crime sprees? Whether that's shootings, whether that's robberies, whatever that looks like. But other people are victimized by folks that are using those vehicles. So when we came together, how many people, what can you enforce to help us reduce the crime in these areas? Because ultimately that's what's happening, right? That's the overarching goal, and to reduce some of the disorderly conduct and those disorderly just quality of life things that we're seeing in the corridors, right? So with that, that's the overall goal. And so that's what we've been working for. But what I want you all to understand, because you all are operators and we have community members in here, so I'm gonna speak to everybody. So we do have DCRA out, we do have ABRA, we do have the fire marshals coming into establishments to do those checks, making sure people are in compliance with, what do y'all get, the CFO? Yep, all of those, but the, when you come into an agreement, settlement agreements. The settlement agreements you might have with ABRA to make sure we're complying with that, right? We know you all want to be good business owners. You don't want to bring the nuisance into the community or operate in such a way that's making folks that are coming to enjoy the amenities, because DC is open, right? You don't want to contribute to any violent crime or anybody getting hurt. So yes, our regulatory agencies are out there. They're conducting inspections. But if this whole setup, the deputy mayor said it, is with the intention of making everybody safe, right? And if you're playing your part, then you don't have anything to worry about, right? Now what's gonna come out of this is the folks that might not be, the operators that might not be playing their part. There might be a consequence there. And what do we wanna do? We just wanna change the behavior. We just wanna make them good neighbors and good operators, right? So this is to keep the community safe. We're not trying to have people come down and enjoy themselves. We're not trying to push anybody out of the community. But in the same token, for the residents that live in the community, we want to reduce what some of that nuisance looks like to you, or whether it's spilling over into your community, because we've seen the glasses and all of that stuff after people have been on these side streets in community drinking, partying and drinking, right? What that looks like. So we want to reduce that inconvenience for you all as well. Not just an inconvenience, but it's a quality of life issue. So that is the point of this task force. U Street is where the majority of our collaboration takes place, but there are two other areas, two other nightlife areas, H Street Northeast, I know what can happen over there. I was the district commander there for 5 years before I got promoted to assistant chief. And we focus on the Connecticut Avenue corridor in Northwest and 2D. So those are our 3 major, with U Street leading the other 2 by a long way. So I am proud to say, I keep saying it, and I want to give my partner agencies kudos because they have really, really, really continued to show up. The mayor announced it. We're still getting our feet. I feel like we've hit a good groove, right? I feel like we have a good groove going in this. But as we move forward, right, if there's another agency that needs to come in, we just brought in the for-hire vehicles, right? Department of for-hire vehicles. Enthusiastically came in, and guess what they're saying? We have unlicensed operators in these, I'm gonna call out a particular company, but we have their for-hire vehicles, that's the enforcement. We're finding they're not registered, they have the wrong tags on them, the vehicles aren't in compliance. So yes, that agency has issued a lot of fines and impounded quite a few vehicles, right? It's about the public's safety, and that's the spirit in which we're doing this and we're operating. We track what it is that we do so that we can report back to the deputy mayor on it, whatever that enforcement action looks like. We want to see an improvement, and we are seeing that with the reduction in kind of those crime stats for that U Street corridor. We have a report for that that comes out during those nightlife hours that we're operating, and we've seen significant reductions. If there's somebody here that doesn't want U Street to be safe, raise your hand.
You have any choice?
I mean, oh, you have choice. Oh, yes.
No, really.
You absolutely have choice. If you don't want to see it operate safely, is what I'm saying. I think we're all here with the same goals. I'm coming in. Give me a second. I'm gonna come. Oh, you don't want it safe, or was that a question?
I just have a comment.
Okay.
And that is, I would love to see, when you speak of U Street and the crime and the noise and so forth, that you would expand beyond 14th and include 15th and U Street.
Okay.
Particularly where the Sunoco gas station is.
Sure.
Because those ATVs, or whatever they call.
Yep.
And also other vehicles, they use 15th and U Street, the Sunoco gas station, as a parking lot.
Yep.
And that's where we get a lot of disturbance between it on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday, Sunday morning. Usually around 10:30 p.m. on those days up until sometime 5:30 a.m. in the morning. My name is Glenda Richmond, and I'm here representing the tenants of Paul Lawrence Dunbar Tenant Association residents who are seniors, and we've been deprived greatly of sleep deprivation.
Yes.
We are retired, we're former government workers, Howard University professors, and on and on. And we need help.
Yes.
We need some pressure put on the owners of Sunoco gas station, where they need to be calling the police department or your task force players, whomever, right? And reporting the activities that take place those days between the hours of 10:30 up until, like I said, 5:30 a.m. in the morning. I mean, it is awful. We suffer. I know that the police department, and I commend you for the weapon, guns, and so forth that you all are confiscating. But I believe, as a senior citizen who is retired, okay, that sleep deprivation is just as lethal as someone taking a gun to my head and blowing my brains out. Because when you're deprived of sleep for days and for months and years, like we have been deprived by these ATVs and other,
I receive exactly what it is that you're saying.
We need your help.
Got you, and so
We need your help.
Yep.
We need these agencies.
So may I talk about what we're doing in that?
Okay.
Okay, so that is part of why we have this NightLife collaboration, right, the ATV recovery. We have, a special, I won't call it an operation, but there is a lot of attention being given to ATVs and ATV recoveries within the Metropolitan Police Department.
I'm talking about 15.
Okay, I'm giving you everything. I'm gonna give you everything I got in this comment, right? So I hear what you're saying, and yes, the 3D commander will make sure that we're not only, and he probably already has, hitting that area. Commander Butler. That's Commander Butler. That's the commander of the third district.
I know Commander Hahn.
Okay.
I'll talk to you in just a second.
Yep, so Commander Butler. So he will ensure that we're paying special attention, and I know that he already is because we've talked about it. You had the conversation with Sunoco, but in the respect to the ATV recovery, there are covert and there are overt operations that we have to recover. And those ATVs, we have our Investigative Services Bureau involved in that, and I can tell you over the last 3 weeks, we've already recovered well over 30 ATVs and motorcycles that have been.
7 more today. She just said.
And 7 more today. So it is a huge, so it is a huge focus and priority. Again, I said it, the mayor understands it, the chief understands it. So for you to say, just come on 1 block over, absolutely we can do that. And I want you to know, our focus area isn't just U Street. We go a block north and south as well, because we have to care about our communities that are being impacted by it. So it's not just the U Street corridor.
Well,
but yes, that is a focus. I receive what you're saying.
I have seen a great difference in the last week. Thank you.
We've been out, this is the 4th week
Yeah.
that people have been out.
No,
So.
but we'll take it. It's important that you all do see and feel the difference. Thank you.
The next week I have, definitely.
Yep, so in that, I think I'm going to kind of wrap up my comments because we are going to have question and answer coming right back to you. If we could just, I wanted to give the other agencies and the commander just a couple of minutes to kind of introduce themselves and what their focus is, because we're going to get back to Q&A, because our whole point of being here is to introduce ourselves to you, but more importantly, to receive your feedback and understand what your concerns are and what you think we're missing. Is there anywhere else we need to focus? Something you think that you want to see us do on this task force? We want to hear that from you, okay? Is that fair?
Yes.
All right.
So just real quick, so everybody knows what agencies, some of our agencies here will speak, but the agencies that are represented in the task force on a weekly basis are ARBRA, right? So the Alcohol Beverage Regulatory Agency, DCRA, which is our regulatory, DC regulatory agency, DDOT, the Department of Transportation, DPW, the Department of Public Works, Fire EMS Service, the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture, the Metropolitan Police Department, CSOSA, and for people who don't know that, that's probation. So the the adult probation.
Yes.
DYRS, who is on juvenile side of for young people involved in the system, and then the Department of For-Hire Vehicles.
Yes.
And so that consists of, that is right now, the corpus of agencies that are out on every week.
What we have, and thank you for reminding me, because what I did want to say is that we do have the supervision agencies and someone from the Office of Gun Violence Prevention that comes out, right? Because remember we talked about shooting, we talked about the illegal guns, Jenny will talk about recoveries along the corridor. But we do have the supervision agencies out, and that seems to go a long way when that hits social media too, right? So that keeps people with guns and, kind of people that may be on notice that you might run into your PO. And one thing that CSOSA did last weekend, 4th of July weekend, which I thought was great, Maryland probation came out with them. They had Maryland probation with them as well. Again, this is because we don't want any bad behavior, right? We're not stigmatizing anybody, we're not focused in on anybody, unless you're doing harm to the community up there. But that's another example of how the agencies have come around the table. With that,
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Bowler. I am the 3rd District Police Commander. What that means to you is I'm the frontline guardian tasked on MPD's command staff to care for the 3rd District, right? That means residents, that means visitors, that means business owners. What I'd like everybody to do is take your phone up, because everybody's got one. I want you to open your phone to new contacts. I'm going to put my phone number in your contact, right? As things are needed within the 3rd District, I should be your first stop, right? If you have a relationship with your sector captain or your lieutenants and your officers and sergeants, that's great. But the deputy mayor and the chief, as open as they are at the phone calls, they get thousands a day, right? And they're just simply gonna call me to tell me to handle it, right? So if you come to me with a problem, a concern, a question, I promise you I'm responsive. That's Frank. I think I talk to him 3 times a day, 7 days a week. I'll get back to you, okay? My name, James. First name, James. Common spelling, James. Last name is Botler. I'll spell it Boteler. My phone number is, when you're ready, 202-553-7908. That's 202-553-7908. To touch on this, I've been the 3D police commander now. I was appointed, 7908 now. I was appointed about 2.5 months ago to this rank, to this position. I'm not absent of the 3rd District. I've been a police officer about 23 years, served in a ton of different capacities. I was here in the 3rd District many years ago when we still had vice units. Those of you who've been around for a while remember the vice units that we had in the districts. So that's how long ago it was since I've been at 3D. Like the chief, I was very familiar with U Street, Adamsburg, and corridors for club zones. And when I got back here 2.5 months ago, I realized very quickly that something had changed. It was just a different feeling and a different vibe on the street. Not necessarily in the business, but on the street. And what we were noticing is for as many people that come to your establishments to have a good time, there were just as many sitting outside, like the chief mentioned, and I won't repeat all that, but there were just kind of what I call hang around, right? Showing up, no real good intention to spend money in the establishments or enjoy the nightlife in the bars, but to kind of just hang outside. And when we were having violent encounters, it really wasn't your patrons that were involved, it was the hang-arounds outside, right? In just from the formation of this task force until today, we've recovered about 35 guns from the U Street corridor, and that's just from 9th Street to 14th Street. And these are not guns, these are not firearms that are being secretly hidden. Most of them are in people's waistbands, walking right past police officers, and you guys and past your establishments are standing outside. We had one this past weekend where the young man actually had his shirt pulled up, and you could see the pistol, the hand grip of the pistol, walked right past the police officer. And so that guy made it very easy for us. But the point being is that different vibe that we're talking about is that just the audacity to bring a gun to a nightlife area where people are trying to enjoy themselves and have fun has exasperated, right? Which is, for NPD standpoint, that was a kind of no pun intended, but a trigger mechanism for us to jump quickly on this problem. And for everything that we do for MPD, there's lots of stuff we can't do, which is why graciously the deputy mayor and all these outside agencies came in to help us. Because if my officer's directing traffic on U Street to keep traffic flowing, guess what he's not doing? Recovering guns off of people who shouldn't be carrying, right? If we're out there dealing with parking enforcement, writing tickets and trying to tow cars, with our limited resources, we're not able to watch crowds and keep people safe so that when fights occur, we can break it up before it becomes something, much more. So I'll reiterate the chief's message. We are very thankful for our partners. We're thankful for both the community residents that live in these areas and the business owners for coming to the table to be part of the solution. Because at the end of the day, we recognize you guys need to make revenue, right? You got to have your delivery drivers be able to, safely, pick up their food and be able to take off without being robbed or without being assaulted or injured or so forth. I will say, for those of you that are concerned about, well, how do my delivery drivers pick up the food if you're not letting traffic stops? We're being very judicious. When somebody identifies as a for-hire vehicle or a delivery driver, we do not tow their car, we do not take them, we do not move them on. We allow them to park safely, recover their items, and continue. It's the cars that are legally parked at the intersections, in the alleyways that become hazards, the folks that are being nefarious with their activities that we're addressing with that type of behavior. So with that, you got my phone number, you have my name, you know what my job is, right? As do I. Please make sure you reach out to me, use me as a resource within the community and within your businesses. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I had a clothing store at 1338 U Street, and one of my biggest concerns were the people that would kind of come in the store and browse around and run back out, especially at weird hours or whatever. But I think that if store owners made it mandatory to have cameras and panic buttons. Cameras and panic buttons, like as soon as they see something that feels uncomfortable, they should have a panic button. And then the second thing I wanted to mention, because I have to go soon, but the collection of guns, if they had little ports on each corner for buyback stations, like a very attractive gun buyback station where, you know, the young kids are in the area, they need money bad. Hey, I'm just going to sell this gun. But I'm just saying it's a very attractive feature.
I appreciate your sense of imagination when it comes to different ways to do it. We've done those type of operations in the past. The right guns out of the right people's hands, meaning the people that are going to use them to hurt people, we don't recover that way, right? And we have to be very careful about stuff, you know, when it's wrong. But that's another conversation we can definitely have offside. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to our other government agencies just so we can get everybody identified and introduced. And then I'm sure we'll circle back around to questions and answers.
We will. Okay. Fams?
Hello, how y'all doing today? Some of y'all know me from NightLife. My name is Inspector Harris. I've been on NightLife for 6 years. You might see me in some of y'all restaurants and businesses and stuff like that, so you know who I am.
What's your department?
Fire marshal.
Fire marshal's office. So my component is to make sure that your restaurants, clubs, bars are not over capacity. And then, meaning that if it's over capacity and stuff, you might have fights break out inside the club, because if you were in the club and stuff, you can't move, can't breathe, somebody step on your foot, bump you wrong, you know, anything can happen. So that's one reason I'm there. And another reason I'm there too is make sure that your fire systems are in working order and good condition, because some of the places I've been to and stuff, you haven't had any self-service since Corona started, since 2019. We want everybody to be safe. You know, we want your employees to be safe. We want y'all to be safe. I've been doing this for like 6 years now, and I've seen the before Corona and I've seen after Corona. And it's now people are coming to the city because they've been locked up so long. But I need y'all help too, because I need to make sure that a lot of y'all come to me and say, hey, you know, we're doing something right, but the people around the corner is not doing right. And if I had to pay my taxes and do the right thing and stuff, everybody should do it. And y'all supposed to be a family. Y'all are business owners and stuff like that. In the same community, you need to be like family. So all I'm saying to you is that if you have a restaurant, bar, something, make sure they have a count of how many people inside the club. That way when I come there and stuff, it's not a guessing game. And I say, if I come there and stuff and you overcrowd and stuff, then we have the issue of getting people out. Now, if they're already in the club already, they don't want to leave because y'all messed up. So then I call it they basically come out there every time. But to nip it in the bud before it starts, that's what we want to do. Again, like I said, you don't want nobody tearing your club up, old bar, restaurant. So that's what I'm here for and stuff. Like I said, my name is Harris, and I make simple sweet. So that's me. And
how's everyone? I'm Captain Berlin Hiley from the Office of the Fire Marshal as well, DC Fire. So just to expand on a little bit on what Inspector Harris talked about, just making sure you guys have your permits placed. Make sure you're following what they're supposed to have as far as occupancy goes. Make sure that your systems for your cooking, your hoods are serviced. Make sure your exit signs are illuminated, because what we don't want is blocked ingress or egress. Same for the alleys. We have to get fire apparatus in case there is a structure fire. We have to be able to access the alley for companies to get into the rear. And then also with the bottle sparklers or any type of pyrotechnics inside of the establishment, that's a no-go in the city. So we don't want a Happy Land social club where we lose 90 to 100 people in a fire at a club. So, and propane as well. Make sure that you have the correct amount of propane that you're supposed to have and that it's stored correctly. And you don't have more than what you're supposed to have. So all of those things, if you don't follow those guidelines, we'll get you a notice of a violation, which can get pretty hefty. So that's basically all we have from the fire service.
Oh, thank you so much. You got?
Thank you.
My name is Jermont Graves, Supervisor for the Traffic Control Officers. So our main purpose, or what we're joining this task force, or a part of this task force league, is pretty much to keep traffic moving, especially if they're double parked, excuse me, if they're blocking our box, or call it a box, if they're blocking the intersection, we try to keep that open for emergency purposes, ambulance, fire, what have you. And again, keeping traffic moving, any double parking is going to get a citation, so we work as good purposes, writing citations, but also moving along traffic. and also assisting when we can with pedestrian crossing. That can be challenging with the amount of people on the streets on Fridays and Saturday nights, but we're there, we're trying hard to keep everyone safe, keep traffic moving, and pretty much that's it. I know sometimes we block off some streets when it's really congested on a new street. So we may have to block off streets, and you as the civilians or anyone for that matter, may have to find a detour. But it serves a purpose, you know, it alleviates some of that backup on your street and allows traffic to flow freely. All right?
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
That department that the gentleman just spoke of, are you also responsible for moving cars? I see the tow trucks.
Not as far as that would be DPW, Department of Public Works.
Yeah, they're here.
Are they here?
They're
Yeah.
here. Absolutely, they're
I'll
here.
save my question for them.
Okay, all right. That's gonna be a good one. I can feel it. Okay. Yes, sir.
I got a question about the parking. We don't have an alley where we can get fresh up or we can get delivery. So most likely when we do a grocery, we have to double park. If we don't find any, there is no loading zone, that block. And especially they make it more harder because they put a bike lane. So how do you deal with that?
That's more of a DPW. More of a DPW.
I'll touch on that real quickly. You're not getting deliveries at 2 in the morning, right?
No.
Right.
No.
So daytime deliveries on U Street, we are very understanding and considerate to those needs of businesses, right? We're really kind of speaking about this enforcement activity from 10 at night till 4 in the morning, when U Street is impeccable with issues, right? So I would say you shouldn't see any difference during daytime deliveries when it comes to parking enforcement.
It's 9th Street, so now they get one line.
I feel like there's something going on, and can we maybe connect you with the right person from DPW to have that conversation? Okay.
And so what we'll do, so our like Director Vandernut said, the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture, we're taking notes, and otherwise, if you connect with one of them, if there's specific issues that are not addressed, I'm Lindsay Apia, I'm the Chief of Staff for the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice. We want to make sure, like, this is what we did say, is this is a conversation opener, right? And so we've been at this 4 weeks, and we're like, the voices of our community, all stakeholders, we always want to uplift. We wanted to come to you with what we've been doing, because a lot of times as government, we come and we're like, this is what we're going to do. And you're like, okay. But we wanted to come now that we've been doing things and hear everybody's voices. But like I said, it's a conversation opener, so there's going to be specific questions, and we're going to air traffic control that and make sure we get you connected with whether it's an agency in this group or otherwise, because our job as a government is to serve our residents and stakeholders all the way around. So, got it. Okay.
Got it. Okay, so with that, we're gonna move on to DCRA.
My name is Christopher Johnson. I am the Vending and Special Events Manager at DCRA. For this task force, those purposes, we deal with vending, anybody on the sidewalks, unlicensed businesses, things of that nature. So I know we have a lot of stakeholders in here as far as businesses, so you will see me or my people in there. We may check your licenses. I mean, usually already know who I am as far as DCRA goes. I'm sure everybody in here is fully licensed and good to go, right? We're not checking licenses today. But that's what we've done. That's what we do at night to make sure the clubs, hotels, restaurants are all duly licensed and doing what they're supposed to be doing, you know, for the safety of the constituents of the District of Columbia. If you have any issues, usually licensing or vending, you can always go on DCRA's website and submit a complaint. If anything happens during the nightlife, I mean, we obviously take care of it at that time. You know, you go online and just submit a complaint if you have an issue with someone else. Okay, you have vending in front of your store. You're a store owner. There's a guy, as the assistant chief said, you know, they're out here vending, I don't know, edibles or something like that. That would be, you know, that would kind of be a collaboration, I guess, because he definitely doesn't have a license for it, I can tell you that. So, anything of that nature, that's what we do, DCRA. So if you have any questions, I'll be here to the end of the meeting.
And I think the great part about it with having the DCRA out, in case you missed it, he said during the nightlife hours, we can have an immediate response and reaction to it versus kind of, you know, getting the complaint, coming to investigate it after the fact. We have that immediate reaction on scene, which is something that I am Thank you, sir.
We'll give you.
Yeah, they do.
Can you please explain how on-site at night solved my problem with DCRA violators? How do I get through the maze to get to the gentleman? Because I have a list every night of the week. I live off of 9th Street. And I'd like to be able to know how to get to DCRA because there's issues all the time everywhere. And I'd like to have that source.
We can get together, you know, sometime before I leave this meeting, and then we can have a discussion and we can figure out the best way that we can facilitate getting you assistance.
Well, it's the same thing with towing and parking. I can't park in my RPP in front of my home because they're all filled with Maryland tags. And for years we've been complaining. Is that, so I have to go to these 10 different people and I'll have their phone numbers? Or, I mean, that's just my question.
No.
How does that maze work?
So that's why we're here.
Okay.
Okay, so you got DCR right here. You got our main supervisor from parking right back here that's gonna talk, or Mike Carter, the interim director at DPW, is gonna get up here and talk. You got the people right here. Those are the issues we wanna hear about. We got an RPP issue around there, trust me. They're ready to go. Right, they're ready to go, and that's what we're looking for.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor, but I heard from the assistant chief that we only go 1 block off U Street. Well, I'm in the 1800 block of 9th Street, I'm 2 blocks, but I have some of the worst crimes going on. I had a shooting in front of my house, a homicide,
So
et cetera, et cetera.
my point to you, right? And we will. It's not that you don't have enforcement up there. It's not that you. Steve, just give me give me the stats real quick, right? Because it's not that they're not there or they're only confined to the 2-3 block radius. That's not what I'm saying. They're out there enforcing.
That's also what we're looking for here. If we're
not
in your block, and that's a block that's near there where we're seeing a lot of RPP issues. That's what we got to hear here.
Yep.
So that DPW can do the right thing and put the right amount of people out there in the right areas.
And maybe we should say what
100% why
the
we're
box is, like, so for the nightlife purposes, right, like of what the because it actually is, I think, I'll leave it to Chief Kane to say what, so that you're clear, like I'm a lawyer for the, so like the clarity of what the nightlife box is versus Commander Boatler, who is responsible for all of 3D, so
all
regardless.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And
right?
part of the point of all of this is to free his officers to have the ability to actually address some of the other issues. We, hearing this, like finding a way for residents to communicate up issues that we can then get to the nightlife people is something that we can be thinking about. And so I just want to say that because it's not like if you're not in the box, you don't get enforcement.
And we're strictly talking about nightlife hours, right? There are still enforcement going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even though I say because you have to manage the space that you're documenting, that does not mean, which we're going over, 14th Street, we need to move it up a little bit to 15th Street, and we go over to 8th Street, and then we catch north and south of U Street on both sides, going up 1 or 2 blocks, right? That's for the reporting purposes, so we can manage it and see how we're doing on U Street and what that overflow might look like. That's not necessarily the only place or space that our ticket writers are focused when they're out there because they are writing a huge amount of tickets, on these vehicles. But to the point that Lindsay made, this is where we want to hear from you because I can tell you that the team, Solana's team, we all meet every Thursday to talk about the previous weekend, what are we focusing coming up on the next weekend, and I will tell you what they're hearing from the community, they're bringing it right back to the group. And we're like, okay, what do we need to do to fix this issue? What do we need to do to fix that issue? Okay, DPW, you got it. Yep, it's NPD issue. We're going to take it. DCRA, are you going to check on it? And we're strategizing on what we're doing on the weekend that's coming up. But we want to hear back from you. What else do we need to do? So in that respect, where you're sharing that information, you're saying, I live, 2 blocks or 3 blocks away from U Street. I need you all to focus a little bit more over here as well. Of course we will. And we'll adjust and we'll make sure that we're covering that area as well. And this is exactly the feedback that we want to hear from you while you all are here. Helpful?
Yes. Frank, this weekend, I was actually out there on Saturday. DPW towed 3 cars from Westminster down past your place, that were illegal parking on the intersections and the fire hydrant. So we are extending down. I mean, that's the one good thing with what Chief was saying about this whole task force. Like MPD, although everybody has their own modality, they're doing their own thing, we actually designate a manager every Friday and Saturday night to be an incident commander, to drive around and have a real-time heartbeat. And you know, that incident commander, if it's not me, it's one of my captains or lieutenants that are giving me 30-minute sit reps every 30 minutes to an hour of what they see, what's going on.
Yep, and to that
allows us
point,
to pivot.
we created, I'm coming right to you next, man. We created a Teams chat where in real time, with all the agencies are in that chat. And if we need to reallocate resources because we're seeing something, they're doing that in real time. Just like they came over the weekend before last, the two, you know, I told you Connecticut Avenue was another nightlife there. And they said, hey, we need a couple of cranes over here, or we have this big unexpected gathering. Can we get some resources over here to either shut some streets down, TCOs to move the traffic out? So that collaboration is happening in real time. And we're able to see it, you know, whether we're at work or we're not at work. We can see our teams talking to each other and kind of filling in those gaps in real time. Okay.
So for clarification purposes, I'd like to know how far up and down 14th Street you're actually going.
What? And then also Jimmy, I'll let you talk to your parameters, but I also want to let you know we get a crime report. You know, we're getting a nightlife crime report to see what it looks like in the areas during operations, to see if we're being effective in that respect. There are a lot of different ways and stats: how many cars were towed, how many tickets were issued, how many guns were recovered. But we're also looking at, are we reducing the crime in that area?
So there's a multi-level approach about how we address nightlife, right? So we have the obvious, the 9th to 14th Street, up and down 9th to 14th Street, and the immediate corridors around it, right? However, from a law enforcement standpoint, we understand displacement, that if we make it uncomfortable for people to hang out here, they may go here, right? So when we build out our deployment every single day, every single shift, we account for that with different modes of enforcement, whether it be crime patrol officers, 10-4, 2 officers in a car that handle like a 3 or 4 block perimeter outside of U Street, where, you know, we have assets on U Street, so they don't need to be there. They need to be on the 3 or 4 blocks on the outside. That's kind of what their job is. We have crime suppression teams that are out there proactively, you know, stopping folks, you know, that are doing illegal activities on those perimeter areas, which is very effective, right? And it helps with that potential for displacement. Because once you displace a couple blocks, now it's no more fun to be there, and folks get their car and they leave and they go somewhere else. So that's kind of our strategy when it comes to that. Relative to 14th Street, we patrol 14th Street from Logan Circle all the way to CHD.
No, I know you guys do, but I'm asking about the task force in particular.
On the nightlife corridor, it's usually, because this is kind of a home base for us, we kind of start here at the beginning of the night and end up here. 14th Street gets attention pretty much all the way down past like T Street, and then all the way up to just past probably D Street, maybe another block north. Now, if during, like the chief said, during our incident commanders patrolling, see something further south of 14th Street, we pivot and we just call some resources down there and they address what we see. So that's kind of where we are.
Well, I would say that I would encourage you guys to extend down beyond our street, because so much of the violence that we had last summer was focused between R and U on 14th Street.
So I do want to be clear, right? I mean, I don't want to sit here and say our nightlife task force, I don't want to overpromise the capacity of what we can do. Because we got a lot of agencies, put a lot of people out there throughout the weekend and things like that. It's a lot of hours, a lot of manpower. We're doing it for the purpose of, we saw an issue in that nightlife corridor. Now, when you're talking about where we saw the issue south of R Street, that may very well come on his commander that's there at night, who's running the shift at that time, who's also got the whole rest of 3D, right? And the reason why we're putting the additional resources in here so that he doesn't come up short in the rest of 3D. It's not all 3D officers that are doing all this work. It's also why we have all these other agencies, all these other uniforms out there. You know, one of the major things.
All the issues you're talking about extend down 14th Street.
And that's why.
And it's not just his job, it's all the other agencies too.
Exactly, and that's why when he's has his incident commander out there for the night looking at that, they're gonna be doing their patrols around. He has the additional CST teams, he has his normal patrol officers that are seeing it, and they can say, hey, it's rolling down 14th a little bit further tonight. In which case, they got on the teams chat and they pivot and they start to roll resources that way to see, because it's going to be different every night. as they start to break it up. Until, well, actually we started to get a pretty good handle on it. And people are starting to see, hey, we can't go and hang out like we could before. We can't drag down the street. I can't roll down, U Street just bumping my music and stop in the middle and, get out and have a great old time. People know they can't do that anymore. So as we become more effective, it becomes easier to move resources to the areas where it starts to displace to. But it could come down 14th one night, it could go down U Street the next night, it could go up 14th the next night, and that's why what the commander is saying is we're keeping an eye to see what's happening and we're adjusting on the fly as we need to. But I don't want to overpromise the resources that we're putting in there. And the whole reason why we're doing this task force and bringing the additional resources in from the other agencies in the city, as well as additional MPD resources from other areas, is so that the 3rd district doesn't go short of officers in the rest of the 3rd district.
And the other thing too is it's important that we know and this is something we don't often communicate with the community well, we know what the different types of crime are. And so when you're talking about there are different, despite how it may seem, there are different doses for different issues. So some of the shooting that we saw last year, if people want to be clear, was crew-based violence, and we know what the source of some of those things are, despite with the community. And this is where we, as a government, we're not great communicators. I mean, we're just not. So these are good. When we're bringing certain types of resources, it addresses certain types of crime, right? And so our belief is if we can address some of the property crime, the guns, various things like that, maybe not having some beefing neighborhoods, right, together, that we're going to see some effect with that. But we also, there's a whole host of resources that we use to address all of our issues. So first, it's not an electric fence, right? We set a box based upon crime and our understanding, but it is probably one of the more fluid things based upon kind of the real-time air traffic controlling that goes on the over a Teams chat on Friday, Saturday, and sometimes Sunday evenings, to address whatever we see. And the partnership is there where we can say, TCOs, we need you down there so that we can address this issue that MPD is over here. That it's a force multiplier. But we also still, if there's crew-based issues, we're gonna apply MPD solutions there, or violence interrupters or otherwise. This model that we're doing, to be honest with you, is also an example for us of how can we utilize our government resources, understanding what the pandemic did. We don't talk about it, but people's behavior changed, people are restless, there's all sorts of things going on that we're trying to address lots of ways, right? And so while we're trying to get a handle on that and addressing behavior, and for our agencies, if we're very honest, the same type of staffing shortages that you see in your businesses and companies, we as a government have to deal with those too. How can we work together? And we're using this as a model to be are there other types of models like this we can apply in different spaces? So I say that because there's not an electric fence that it's they're not going past there. This is where we're focusing because this is what we're seeing, but we're fluid. We really are being probably more fluid. I've worked for DC government for 10 years, which is wild. But 18 years of lawyering, 13 for governments, right? It's more fluid than I've seen things be, right? Governments usually are moving the Titanic. So for Chief Gay to be this weekend, let's try this, right?
And in that respect, I think it's good to pivot to, we have
DPW.
Adrian Richardson.
Oh yeah.
From the Office of Gun Violence.
These are some more.
DYRS. So we can have Adrian come up.
And then we still have DPW. We don't want to leave out our friends at DPW.
We can have about our friends at DPW.
We're in their building.
Or at least I tricked myself.
With Office of Gun Violence and also with the Department of Youth and Rehabilitation Services, so I carry 2 roles. So my job is to make sure there's no juveniles commit any crimes up and down this corridors or on the run from our agency. So that's one role. And also we touch on the gun violence prevention as well. So I operate in that capacity. So we're here just as well as the other agencies all night long.
So when you kind of talked about what you were seeing down there last year, this is really where Adrian shines in that respect as well. So when you say we brought the whole of government out, we literally brought the whole of government out to deal with the issues.
Right, and I don't want it to just seem like I'm just talking about the violence last year. Much of the stuff that's happening on U Street is cascading down and cascading up, which I know you guys are aware of, and I appreciate the fluidity of it. It's still happening 2 blocks south and 3 blocks south, which I know that you are painfully aware of. So I would just, as you're getting feedback and thinking about what the next course is, I would just encourage that fluidity so that we also feel like that attention is being paid to us 2 blocks, I'm 2 blocks, but 3 blocks south, and you know, as there's a lot of other nightlife in that area.
Yep, and 14th Street, I think you said hopping, DM. When I ride it, I see how busy it is on 14th Street north and south.
And a lot of stuff happens at Thomas Circle. And that's a really, like last night there was a motor vehicle accident where there was only 1 car. So where'd the other car go? I mean, it was really...
in that space though, and again, the deputy mayor talked about managing expectations, right? We put this together for specific, you know, what we were seeing along the U Street corridor. Don't forget, there's still the rest of the police department, right? And we have obligations in those spaces and places that we're talking about right now. We didn't stop doing that, and now we're just on U Street.
Yeah.
If anything, again, the force multiplier allowed us to spread out even further and allocate more resources outside, MPD resources outside of that U Street corridor, because our partner agencies are helping us.
Well, and there's a lot of grants for the gun violence movement right now.
Yep, and so when you talk about outside of U Street, but we also have, you know, them coming in to U Street, you know, some of our, you know, grantees, but we still, the rest of the districts, you know, we talked about the crew base. We have a different crew base between 3D and 4D that we're trying to stifle right now outside of U Street. So our work in the rest of the district does not stop. Okay. All right,
DPW.
I think if we can do DPW, and then we will go to just straight questions and answers, okay? So we'll let DPW do. And now I would say that the director here has just shown up and shown out himself. His team has been present, but he is also present out here. The agency head, we love it.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Card. I'm the interim director of DPW. I'm here with parking manager Preston Moore and Richard Drozen from the Solid Waste Administration. We're proud to be a part of the task force. We come out every Friday and Saturday night. We like to have a 9 o'clock meeting here with our NightLife partners. And, you know, we have the block of the zone, and we know the things we have to do, which is we'll have a parking supervisor, we'll have parking officers writing tickets, we have tow crane operators, and also we have a cleaning plan that we also have bids. We have clean teams, but we also come out and at the request of MPD or anybody else to clean up those areas that need cleaning, because there's a lot of activity. We do a lot of ticket writing. We work to move traffic along. We occasionally relocate, and even we have impounded scofflaws. Also, it gives us a inroad to areas that we have to force during the day as well. But we're proud to be a part of the task force working on U Street, Connecticut Avenue, as well as A Street. And we try to get 4 to 8 cranes per NightLife event, as well as parking officers. We want to keep people happy, the businesses happy, and also keep neighborhoods safe, and also keep our employees safe, because they're an asset to us as well. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Are you the one that has to do with the towing trucks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, would you please tell your staff, those tow truck people, not to play their music so loud while they're waiting for trucks to come and tow? That's a problem.
Okay.
They are as loud as some of them, I don't know who it is, but 2 weeks ago, in the Summit gas station, there were 2 tow trucks, and one of them's music was so loud, just like the
It wasn't in private tow trains.
Yeah, let's be real clear.
They were white. They were white.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know, but they were tow trucks. They were white tow trucks.
Okay, so if there's a DC flag on the side, that's us. If there's not, that's not, but we will.
Well, I couldn't see that before, but I could see white,
Yeah.
so.
We'll reiterate.
Maybe y'all can monitor that.
Oh, yeah, we have geotabs. We'll check that. Quick question,
Yeah.
outstanding question regarding, are there police parking officers, ticket writers, I hear they all leave at 11 p.m.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, on U Street and on 9th for the last 17 years since I've been there, that's what I've been told. I see one officer.
Oh, can I take that one?
Well,
Okay.
well, he's the head.
Well, let me say this, and
Yeah.